The smell of burning metal and cheap alcohol filled the air in the lower decks of Nexus Prime. Daeho sat alone in the corner of a dimly lit bar, his third drink of the night sweating onto the worn table. Around him, dozens of alien species mingled and argued, their voices creating a constant buzz of noise that he had learned to ignore years ago. He stared at his reflection in the grimy glass. 5 years ago, that face had worn the proud uniform of Earth Defense Force. Now it was just another face in the crowd, scarred and forgotten. The burn mark running down his left cheek told part of his story. The empty look in his eyes told the rest. A hollow screen above the bar flickered with news from the upper decks. The Galactic Council was holding another emergency session. More security concerns. More debates about threats to peace. Daeho snorted and drained his glass. The Council had 12 species represented, including humans, but they barely tolerated Earth's presence. To them, humanity was still primitive, barely worthy of a seat at the table. His wrist communicator buzzed. Daeho ignored it. Probably another late shift at the loading docks. The work was brutal and the pay was terrible. But it kept him fed and gave him a reason to wake up each morning. That was enough. The communicator buzzed again. Then again. Daeho cursed and checked the screen. His eyes widened. The message was flagged with Council authority codes. Someone from the upper decks wanted to see him. Someone important. He considered ignoring it. Nothing good ever came from the upper decks for people like him. But curiosity won. He tossed a few credit chips on the table and headed for the door. The journey from lower decks to upper decks took 30 minutes by lift. Daeho watched the levels change through the transparent walls. The lower sections were dark and cramped, filled with workers and refugees. As the lift rose, everything became cleaner, brighter, more beautiful. By the time he reached the Council levels, the station looked like a palace of light and glass. 2 security guards in advanced armor met him at the lift entrance. They scanned him for weapons, their expressions showing exactly what they thought of a dock worker entering their pristine domain. One of them gestured down a hallway. Daeho followed. The hallway ended at a private meeting room. Inside, a woman sat at a sleek table, reviewing holographic documents. She looked up as he entered, and Daeho recognized her immediately. Counselor Hana, Earth's representative to the Galactic Council. She was younger than he expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Daeho, she said, gesturing to a chair. Thank you for coming. He sat cautiously. I didn't think I had a choice. Counselor, you always have a choice. She dismissed the holographic documents with a wave of her hand. I've been reading your military file. Impressive record. 3 tours in the Frontier Wars, decorated for valor twice, expert in tactical operations and close quarters combat. Daeho's jaw tightened. You didn't bring me here to discuss my past achievements. No. Hana leaned back in her chair. I brought you here to discuss your court-martial. Operation Safeguard. You were ordered to secure a military depot. Instead, you diverted resources to evacuate 2,000 civilians from a war zone. The depot was already lost, Daeho said flatly. Those people would have died. Your superiors didn't see it that way. They said you disobeyed direct orders, compromised the mission. You were stripped of rank and dishonorably discharged. Is there a point to this? Hana studied him carefully. You made the hard choice. You chose lives over orders. That's exactly the kind of person I need. Thanks for watching. You made the hard choice for gifted at 80 mark. The treasure honor. Daeho laughed bitterly. Need for what? I'm not a soldier anymore. The council has a problem. Hana pulled up a new holographic display. Images of alien dignitaries appeared, each marked with a red symbol. 6 council members have been assassinated in the past 3 months. 2 more survived attempts on their lives. The group responsible calls themselves the Void Ascendancy. I've heard of them, Daeho said. Extremists. They think the council is weak. That species should remain separate. They're more than extremists. They're organized, well-funded, And they have access to advanced technology. Every guard we've assigned to protect council members has been killed or compromised. Traditional security has failed completely. Hana closed the display and looked directly at him. I proposed a different approach. Hire someone unexpected. Someone with nothing to lose and everything to prove. Someone the ascendancy won't see coming. Deho stared at her. You want me to protect the council? The same council that represents a humanity that threw me away? I want you to protect the people who will die if the council falls. The Void Ascendancy doesn't just want to kill a few politicians, Deho. They want to start a war. Species against species, empire against empire. Billions will die. And Earth, being one of the newest and weakest members, will be targeted first. The room fell silent. Deho felt the weight of her words. He thought about the refugees he had saved 5 years ago. He wondered if they were still alive, still safe, still grateful. He thought about Earth, the planet that had rejected him but still held everyone and everything he had once loved. Why me? He asked quietly. There are other soldiers, better soldiers. Because you understand sacrifice. Hana's voice was gentle but firm. Because when everyone else was following orders, you did what was right. That's what the council needs now. Not blind obedience, but moral courage. Deho stood and walked to the window. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly. Ships moved between them like fireflies, carrying people and cargo and dreams. Somewhere out there, people were planning murder. Somewhere out there, war was waiting. The other council members, he said. They won't want a disgraced human protecting them. They don't have to like you. They just have to stay alive. He turned back to face her. If I do this, I do it my way. No interference, no second guessing. I assess the threats and respond as I see fit. Agreed. And when this is over, I go back to my life. No parades, no medals, no redemption tours. Hana nodded. You have my word. Deho took a deep breath. Every instinct told him to refuse, to walk away, to keep his head down and his life simple. But he had never been good at listening to his instincts. That's what had gotten him court-martialed in the first place. When do I start? Tomorrow. I'll arrange quarters for you in the council's secure wing. You'll attend the morning session and begin evaluating security protocols immediately. As Deho headed for the door, Hana called out. Deho, thank you for giving Earth another chance. He paused without turning around. I'm not doing this for Earth. I'm doing this because those refugees I saved 5 years ago deserved to live. Everyone deserves that chance. Even pompous alien politicians. He left before she could respond. The next morning, Deho stood outside the council chamber, wearing the simple gray uniform Hana had provided. Through the massive doors, he could hear voices arguing in a dozen different languages. He took a breath and stepped inside. 12 beings turned to look at him. 12 representatives of civilizations that had conquered stars while Earth was still learning to make fire. Their eyes held curiosity, contempt, suspicion, and in one case, hope. Counselor Hana stood. Members of the council, this is Deho. He will be responsible for your security. A massive creature covered in crystalline armor laughed. This fragile human is supposed to protect us? I have guards who could break him with one hand. Then perhaps you should ask your guards why 6 council members are dead, Deho said calmly. The chamber fell silent. The crystalline creature's eyes narrowed dangerously. Deho met his gaze without flinching. I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to keep you alive. If you prefer to die with dignity rather than live under human protection, that's your choice. But make it now, because I don't have time to waste. Another council member, this one appearing as pure, glowing energy, contained in a hovering sphere, spoke in a melodic voice. You are very brave, or very foolish. Human. Probably both, Deho admitted. But I'm also very good at what I do. Give me 2 weeks. If I haven't improved your security by then, I'll leave. The council members looked at each other. Finally, Hana spoke. All in favor of accepting Daeho's services? 7 hands, tentacles, and appendages rose. It was enough. Daeho nodded once. Then let's begin. I'll need complete access to security systems, records of all previous attacks, and detailed schedules for every council member. And someone should probably show me where I'll be sleeping. As the council resumed their session, Daeho stood at the back of the chamber and watched. He studied their positions, their body language, their interactions. He noted the exits, the sightlines, the vulnerabilities. This was going to be harder than any battle he had ever fought. But for the first time in 5 years, Daeho felt something he thought he had lost forever: purpose. The quarters they assigned to Daeho were deliberately insulting. A small room in the service section, barely larger than a storage closet, with a hard bed and a single small window facing the station's industrial sector. The other council guards lived in spacious apartments with proper facilities. The message was clear. He was not one of them. Daeho dropped his bag on the bed and smiled grimly. He had slept in worse places during the war. At least this room had a door that locked. He spent the first 3 days studying. The council's security files filled his portable terminal with data. 6 assassinations, each one different. Councillor Thane of the Rigel Combine shot in his private garden. Councillor Mora of the Silver Fleet poisoned at a diplomatic dinner. The attacks showed planning and resources. The Void Ascendancy had inside knowledge of council schedules, security protocols, private locations. They knew exactly where to strike and when. That level of intelligence suggested something Daeho didn't want to believe but couldn't ignore. Someone inside was helping them. On the 4th day, he began making changes. He reworked guard rotations to eliminate patterns. He installed additional sensors in the council chamber. He demanded random schedule changes for all council members. Every suggestion was met with resistance. "This is unnecessary," complained the head of station security, a tall alien named Vex with 4 arms and a superior attitude. "Our current protocols are adequate. 6 dead council members disagree," Daeho replied. "Those were unfortunate incidents, but we have adjusted our procedures. Your procedures have holes big enough to fly a ship through. Either you let me fix them, or you explain to Councillor Hana why you prefer tradition over safety." Vex's skin flushed an angry purple, but he authorized the changes. The council members themselves were no easier to work with. Most ignored Daeho's instructions. Councillor Vel, the massive crystalline warrior who had mocked him on the first day, deliberately violated every security protocol just to prove a point. When Daeho confronted him, Vel laughed. "I am a Crithian battle lord," Vel rumbled. "I have survived 100 combats. I do not need a weak human telling me how to stay safe." "Then you'll be the 7th dead council member," Daeho said. "I'll make sure your funeral is suitably impressive." Vel's crystalline face darkened, but he said nothing more. The only council member who treated Daeho with any respect was Bora. She appeared as a sphere of glowing golden light, with a voice that sounded like wind chimes. The Luminari were energy beings, contained in specially designed crystalline spheres that allowed them to interact with physical reality. "Why do you help us?" Bora asked one evening, floating beside Daeho as he inspected security monitors. "Your own people rejected you. We treat you with contempt. Yet you work to protect us." Daeho kept his eyes on the screens. "Someone has to." "That is not an answer." He was quiet for a moment. "I spent 5 years thinking about the refugees I saved. 2,000 people. They were just ordinary people, caught in a war they didn't start. I disobeyed orders to get them out. My superiors said I was wrong. They said I betrayed my duty." "But you believe you were right," Bora said softly. "I know I was right. Those people deserve to live. Everyone deserves that chance, no matter what species they are. That's worth protecting, even if the people I'm protecting don't appreciate it." Bora's light pulsed warmly. "You are a good person, Daeho. Your people were fools to cast you out. Maybe. Or maybe they saw something I didn't. Either way, I am what I am now. Over the following days, Bora became something like a friend. She told him about the Luminari, how their population was declining, how each life was precious to her species. She listened when he talked about Earth, about the forests and oceans he hadn't seen in years. In the cold, hostile environment of the council levels, her kindness was water in a desert. Then came the day everything changed. The council was in session, discussing trade agreements. Dae-ho stood at his usual position, near the back, watching everything. The debate was boring, technical, filled with diplomatic language that meant nothing. His eyes scanned the room constantly, looking for anything unusual. The lights flickered. It was brief, barely noticeable. But Dae-ho's military instincts screamed danger. He activated his ocular implant, switching to thermal imaging mode. The world shifted to colors based on heat. 3 figures appeared near the council members. They were nearly invisible to normal sight, using some kind of light-bending technology. But their body heat betrayed them. "Down!" Dae-ho roared, already moving. The first assassin fired at Counselor Hana. Dae-ho's hand found his sidearm, and he fired twice. The shots went wide of Hana, but caught the assassin in the shoulder, disrupting his camouflage. The figure materialized, wearing advanced combat armor. Chaos erupted. Council members scattered. More assassins appeared. 6, 7, 8 of them. The automated defense systems should have activated, but nothing happened. Sabotage. Dae-ho moved through the chaos like he was born to it. This was what 5 years of war had trained him for. He didn't think, just reacted. Shot one assassin in the leg, tackled another before they could reach Vel. Used a fallen chair as a shield against energy fire. The assassins were good, but they had expected easy targets, not resistance. Dae-ho's presence disrupted their careful plan. He kept moving, kept fighting, kept himself between the killers and their targets. A blade slashed across his ribs. Pain flared, hot and immediate. Dae-ho spun and slammed his elbow into the attacker's throat. The assassin stumbled back, and Dae-ho finished him with a shot to the chest. "Bora, get to the secure room," he shouted. The golden sphere of light was frozen in fear. "Move now!" His voice snapped her out of shock. She floated quickly toward the emergency exit. Other council members followed her lead. Finally listening to his instructions, 3 assassins remained. They regrouped, recognizing Dae-ho as the real threat. They advanced together, coordinating their fire. Energy bolts scorched the air around him. He dove behind a council bench, feeling the heat of near misses. His ammunition was running low. His side burned where the blade had cut him. He was outnumbered and outgunned. But he had one advantage. He was willing to die here if it meant the council lived. Dae-ho pulled a small device from his belt, a flashbang, salvaged from his old military gear. He threw it high, then closed his eyes and covered his ears. The explosion of light and sound filled the chamber. The assassins' advanced helmets tried to compensate, but the flash overwhelmed their systems. Dae-ho burst from cover while they were still blind. He fought like a demon. No technique, no grace, just brutal efficiency. Broke one assassin's knee with a kick, grabbed another's weapon, and turned it against its owner. The third tried to run, and Dae-ho shot him in the back. Then it was over. 8 bodies lay scattered across the council chamber. Dae-ho stood in the center, breathing hard, bleeding from multiple wounds. His hands shook from adrenaline. Station security finally arrived, weapons ready. They stopped at the doorway, staring at the carnage. Vex, their commander, looked at Dae-ho with something between shock and respect. "The council?" Vex asked. "Safe." In the secure room, Dae-ho's legs suddenly felt weak. He sat down hard on the floor. "Check them. Make sure none are hurt." Medical teams rushed in. Someone tried to help Dae-ho, but he waved them away. Council first. I'm fine. He wasn't fine. His vision was starting to blur. But he stayed conscious, through sheer will, watching as each council member was escorted past him. They all stared. Some looked grateful. Some looked terrified. Vel stopped and looked down at him. I was wrong, the Crithian said quietly. You are not weak. Deho managed a tired smile. Just stubborn. Finally, they let the medics work on him. As they cleaned and sealed his wounds, Deho's mind was already working on the bigger problem. The attack had been too precise. The security systems had been sabotaged. The assassins had known exactly when and where to strike. Someone had given them that information. Someone with access to council systems. There was a traitor among the 12. Later that night, in the medical bay, Counselor Hana visited him. She looked shaken, but unharmed. Thank you, she said simply. You saved us all. Just doing my job. It's more than that. She sat beside his bed. The other council members are talking. What you did today changed their view of humanity. You showed them what we're capable of. Deho closed his eyes. I didn't do it for humanity's reputation. I did it because it was right. I know. That's what makes it matter. After Hana left, Bora floated into the room. Her golden light was dimmed, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. You were hurt protecting us, she said, her voice sad. It's not that bad. I've had worse. Still, you put yourself in danger for beings who have shown you nothing but disrespect. Why? Deho looked at her glowing form. Because you matter, Bora. All of you matter. And someone needs to make sure you're safe, even if you don't appreciate it. I appreciate it, she said softly. As she left, Deho stared at the ceiling. The attack had changed things. The council would listen to him now. But it had also confirmed his worst fear. The Void Ascendancy had detailed inside information. Tomorrow he would start hunting for the traitor. Tonight, he just needed to rest and heal. Recovery took 3 days. Deho spent the time reading, thinking, and planning. The medical staff wanted him to rest for a week, but he had work to do. On the 4th morning, he discharged himself and returned to his small quarters. The room had changed. Someone had moved his belongings to a larger apartment in the council's residential wing. The new space had proper furniture, a real bed, a window with a view of the stars. A note from Hana explained that the council had voted to upgrade his accommodations. It seemed saving their lives had earned him some respect, but Deho barely noticed the improvements. His mind was focused on the bigger problem. He spread his investigation materials across the new desk and began the careful work of finding a traitor. The first step was understanding the evidence. The assassins had known the exact time of the council session. They had sabotaged the automated defenses in advance. They had mapped the chamber's layout perfectly. That information could only come from someone with high-level access. Deho created a list of everyone who had such access. Security personnel, council staff, and the council members themselves. It was a depressingly long list. He needed to narrow it down. He started with the security personnel. Vex and his team had access to everything, but they had also been the primary targets of previous Ascendancy operations. 3 security chiefs had been killed before Vex took the position. If one of them was the traitor, they were taking incredible risks. The council staff seemed unlikely. They were loyal, carefully vetted, and had little to gain from the Ascendancy's goals. Most came from species that would suffer greatly in an interstellar war. That left the council members themselves. The thought made Deho's stomach turn. One of the people he was protecting was actively trying to get the others killed. But it made terrible sense. A council member would have access to everything: schedules, security protocols, private information. They could sabotage defenses without suspicion. They could provide intelligence that no outsider could obtain. He began studying each council member carefully, looking for motives and opportunities. Councillor Vel of the Crithian Empire seemed an obvious suspect. His people valued strength and conquest. The Ascendancy's philosophy of species separation aligned with Krithian traditional values. But Vel had also been a target in previous attacks. Unless he was willing to risk his own life for the cause, he seemed unlikely. Bora of the Luminari had no motive. Her species was dying, their population declining with each generation. War would likely mean extinction for them. She desperately wanted peace. Counselor Hana was human, and the Ascendancy particularly hated humanity for being weak newcomers to galactic politics. She had nothing to gain from helping them. Deho worked through the entire list. Some had possible motives but no opportunity. Others had opportunity, but no clear motive. It was frustrating work, made harder by the fact that he had to investigate in secret. If the traitor knew he was hunting them, they might flee or escalate their plans. He spent his days performing normal security duties and his nights analyzing data. Communications, logs, supply requisitions, travel records, anything that might show a pattern. His eyes burned from staring at screens. His head ached from lack of sleep. But slowly, carefully, he began to see connections. One name appeared more often than it should: Counselor Nix of the Shadow Syndicate. The Syndicate was a recent addition to the Council, a coalition of smugglers and independent traders who had been granted membership as part of a peace treaty. Nix represented their interests, arguing for less regulation and more autonomy for outer territories. Deho pulled up Nix's communication records. Most were routine, but several caught his attention. Encrypted messages sent to unregistered addresses. Unusual supply orders that didn't match official council business. Travel to stations known as Ascendancy recruiting grounds. None of it was proof. But it was suspicious enough to investigate further. During this time, Deho found himself growing closer to several council members. Bora continued to seek him out, their conversations becoming deeper and more personal. She told him about her home world, a place of pure energy and light, where her people danced between stars. He told her about Earth's forests, about rain and wind, and the smell of growing things. "I would like to visit your world someday," Bora said one evening. "Maybe when this is all over," Deho replied, though he doubted he would ever see Earth again. Even Vel became something like a friend. The Krithian warrior began joining Deho for combat training in the station's gym. They would spar for hours, Vel's crystalline strength against Deho's speed and technique. During these sessions, Vel spoke about his empire's troubles. "My people think we are strong," Vel said after one particularly brutal match. "But we are afraid. The Ascendancy's message appeals to our pride. But it comes from fear. Fear that we are becoming weak by working with others. Strength isn't about standing alone," Deho said. "It's about knowing when to ask for help." Vel's crystalline face rippled with something like sadness. "I hope you are right, human." Counselor Taemin, an elderly human who served as Hana's senior advisor, also became a regular presence in Deho's life. Taemin had been a diplomat for 40 years, serving Earth through its difficult integration into galactic society. He reminded Deho of the ideals he had once believed in. "You carry a great burden," Taemin said one night, sharing tea in Deho's apartment. "Not just protecting bodies, but protecting the idea that different species can work together." "I'm just trying to keep people alive," Deho replied. "That is the work, yes. But the meaning is larger. Every day, the Council survives. Every day we prove cooperation is possible. We push back against the Ascendancy's vision of eternal division." Deho sipped his tea. "What if one of the Council members is helping the Ascendancy?" Taemin's eyes sharpened. "You suspect a traitor?" The attack was too precise. Someone gave them information only a Council member would have. "Do you know who?" "I have a suspect, but I need proof." Taemin was quiet for a long moment. "Be careful, Deho. If you are right, you are hunting someone very dangerous. Someone willing to betray their own colleagues. I know. But if I'm right, we need to stop them before they can arrange another attack." Over the next week, Daeho focused his investigation on Nyx. He tracked the syndicate representatives' movements, monitored communications, analyzed patterns, and slowly, he found what he was looking for. Nyx had accessed the security system controls 3 times in the month before the attack, each time using legitimate credentials, each time with a plausible reason. But the timing was suspicious. The last access came just hours before the assassins struck. More damning, Daeho discovered encrypted messages sent from Nyx's private terminal to a relay station in neutral space. He couldn't break the encryption, but the timing of the messages corresponded with ascendancy operations. One sent 2 days before Counselor Thane was killed. Another sent a week before Counselor Mora was poisoned. It wasn't absolute proof. A good lawyer could argue it was all circumstantial. But Daeho had seen enough combat to trust his instincts. Nyx was the traitor. The question was, what to do about it? Confronting Nyx directly would be dangerous. If Nyx was working with the Ascendancy, they might have contingency plans, escape routes, hidden weapons, backup teams ready to act. Daeho brought his findings to Hana and Taemin in a secure meeting room. He laid out the evidence, explaining each connection, each suspicious detail. Hana's face went pale. Nyx has been a council member for 2 years. We trusted them. The syndicate never wanted to join the council, Taemin said grimly. The peace treaty forced them to accept membership. Nyx must see this as a way to regain their independence. We need to arrest Nyx immediately, Hana said. No. Daeho shook his head. If we arrest Nyx now, the Ascendancy will know we're onto them. They'll change their plans, go underground, wait for another opportunity. We need to let this play out. Let it play out? Hana looked shocked. They're planning another attack. I'm certain of it. And I think I know when. Daeho pulled up the council's schedule. The Unity Gala. 3 weeks from now. Every council member will be gathered in one place, with minimal security because it's supposed to be a celebration of peace. It's the perfect target. Taemin studied the schedule. You want to use the gala as bait. Let the attack happen, but be ready for it. Exactly. We prepare in secret, position our own forces, and catch the assassins in the act. We get proof of Nyx's betrayal, and we eliminate the Ascendancy's operational team at the same time. You're asking us to risk every council member's life, Hana said. I'm asking you to trust me to protect them. It's a risk, but it's our best chance to end this threat permanently. The 3 of them sat in silence, considering the terrible gamble. Finally, Hana nodded. We do this your way, Daeho. But if anything goes wrong, if even one council member dies, it will be on all of us. I know, Daeho said quietly. Believe me, I know. As they left the meeting, Taemin pulled Daeho aside. This plan, it's similar to what you did during Operation Safeguard, using people as bait to draw out the enemy. The difference is this time, I have permission. The other difference is this time, you might succeed. Or you might fail. And good people will die, because you made the wrong choice. Daeho met the old diplomat's eyes. That's the burden of command. Someone has to make the hard choices. Might as well be me. The next 3 weeks were the longest of Daeho's life. He had to act normal, perform his duties, give no sign that he knew about the coming attack. Meanwhile, he secretly prepared his counterstrike, positioning trusted security personnel, setting up hidden defenses, creating backup plans for every possible scenario. He watched Nyx carefully, looking for any sign that the traitor suspected the trap. But Nyx seemed calm, confident, going about their council duties without concern. The night before the Unity Gala, Daeho stood in his apartment, checking and rechecking his equipment. His weapons were clean and loaded. His armor was maintained and ready. His mind ran through the plan again and again, looking for flaws. Bora visited him, her light dim with concern. You seem troubled. Big day tomorrow. The gala should be a celebration. But you prepare for war. Daeho looked at her. this being of pure light and kindness. I hope I'm wrong. I hope nothing happens, and we all just enjoy the party. But you don't believe that? No, I don't. Bora floated closer. Whatever comes, know that you have given me something precious. Hope. The belief that different species can protect each other, care for each other, that is worth more than you know. After she left, Daeho stood at his window, looking out at the stars. Tomorrow would test everything he had learned, everything he believed. Tomorrow, he would either save the council or watch it burn. He touched the scar on his cheek, remembering the refugee camp, remembering the choice that had cost him everything. That choice had been right. He had to believe this choice was right too. The stars offered no answers, but they witnessed his resolve. Whatever tomorrow brought, he would face it standing. The grand hall of Nexus Prime had been transformed into something beautiful. Crystalline decorations hung from the ceiling, catching light and scattering rainbows across the gathered crowd. Musicians from 6 different species played harmonies that shouldn't have worked, but somehow did. Hundreds of diplomats, representatives, and dignitaries mingled beneath the transparent dome, the stars themselves serving as decoration. The Unity Gala was meant to celebrate peace, cooperation, and the bonds between species. Every year, the council members set aside their differences for one night and remembered why they had come together in the first place. Security was deliberately minimal, a show of trust and confidence. Except this year, that trust was a lie. Daeho stood near the refreshment tables, wearing formal clothing that concealed his combat armor. His eyes constantly scanned the crowd, tracking movements, noting positions. Scattered throughout the hall were 20 human security personnel, disguised as servers and technicians. Only 3 people in the entire gathering knew what was coming: Daeho, Hana, and Taemin. The council members themselves were unaware of the danger. They laughed and talked, their formal attire glittering under the lights. Bora floated near the center of the hall, her golden light bright with happiness. Vel stood with a group of military officials, arguing good-naturedly about ancient battles. Even Nyx was present, smiling and socializing, giving no sign of the betrayal planned for tonight. Daeho's wrist communicator vibrated silently. One of his security team had spotted unusual activity near the power distribution center. He acknowledged the signal and kept watching. Counselor Hana approached him, carrying a glass of something blue and sparkling. To anyone watching, she was just making small talk with her bodyguard. "Are you certain about this?" she asked quietly. "No," Daeho admitted. "But it's too late to stop now. If you're wrong, we've put everyone on edge for nothing. If you're right, we're about to see a bloodbath. If I'm right, we're about to end this threat permanently. Trust me." Hana nodded and moved away, rejoining a conversation with alien dignitaries. Daeho watched her go, hoping he deserved that trust. Taemin caught his eye from across the room and gave a subtle nod. The elderly diplomat had positioned himself near the emergency exits, ready to guide council members to safety when the attack began. His calm presence was reassuring. The evening progressed. Speeches were made, toasts were offered, and the gathering settled into comfortable celebration. Daeho's nerves stretched tighter with each passing minute. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe Nyx wasn't planning anything. Maybe he had read the evidence incorrectly and was about to look like a paranoid fool. Then the lights died. Complete darkness swallowed the grand hall. The music stopped. Conversations cut off mid-sentence. For 3 heartbeats, there was perfect silence. Then, the screaming began. Energy weapons lit the darkness with pulses of deadly light. Daeho's enhanced vision switched to thermal mode automatically. He saw them immediately. 50 assassins, maybe more, materializing throughout the hall using camouflage technology. They moved with precision, targeting specific individuals. "Now!" Daeho shouted into his communicator. His security team activated. Emergency lights blazed to life, powered by independent systems Daeho had installed. The hidden weapons he had positioned throughout the hall came online. In seconds, The celebration became a battlefield. Daeho moved through the chaos like a force of nature. His armor's full systems activated, weapons deployed from concealed compartments. He had prepared for this, trained for this, planned for this. Every step was calculated, every shot precise. An assassin targeted Bora. Daeho intercepted, his body blocking the energy blast meant for her. His armor absorbed most of the impact, but pain flared across his shoulder. He returned fire, dropping the attacker. "Stay behind me," he ordered Bora. Her golden light pulsed with fear. But she obeyed. The grand hall had become hell. Diplomats ran in panic, colliding with each other, creating more chaos. The assassins used the confusion, pressing their attack. They were well-trained and heavily armed. Daeho's security team fought back, but they were outnumbered. Daeho's tactical mind processed everything at once. He opened a communication channel to all his people. Defensive formation around the council members. Don't let them get separated. His team responded, forming a protective circle around the 12 council members. It was brutal work. Energy bolts scorched the air. Bodies fell. Some in formal clothing, some in assault armor. The beautiful decorations shattered and burned. Vel surprised everyone by grabbing a fallen weapon and joining the fight. The Crithian's crystalline armor was nearly impenetrable, and his strength was immense. He fought with savage efficiency, protecting the smaller council members with his own body. "I told you I was a battle lord," Vel roared, crushing an assassin's weapon with his bare hands. Other council members showed unexpected courage. A delegate from the Outer Rim used telekinetic abilities to throw assassins against walls. A representative of the mining collective deployed personal shields, protecting those nearby. Even in the face of death, beings from a dozen species chose to stand together, but the assassins kept coming. They had numbers and superior weapons. Daeho's team was bleeding, dying, giving ground inch by inch. He could see the battle turning against them. Then the assassin's commander revealed himself. A massive figure in advanced power armor, wielding weapons that seemed built for killing armies. The commander's voice boomed through speakers. "Council members, your time is over. The ascendancy brings a new order." The commander charged directly at the council's defensive position. Daeho stepped forward to intercept. What followed was the most brutal fight of Daeho's life. The commander was faster than anything that size should be, stronger than anything Daeho had ever faced. Each blow from that armored fist could have killed. Each shot from those weapons could have ended everything. Daeho used every trick he knew. He fought dirty, fought smart, fought desperate. He targeted joints in the armor, used the environment, threw debris, and fired from unexpected angles. But it wasn't enough. The commander was too strong, too skilled. A massive fist caught Daeho in the ribs. He felt bones break. The pain was blinding. He went down hard. Vision blurring. The commander stood over him, weapon aimed at his head. Brave, for a human, but foolish. Through the pain, Daeho saw Bora floating behind the commander. Her golden light pulsed, building in intensity. She was gathering energy, preparing something. "Now!" Daeho gasped. Bora released her stored energy in a brilliant flash. It wasn't a weapon. The Luminari were pacifists by nature, but it was blinding. The commander's helmet tried to compensate for the sudden light, sensors overloading. In that moment of blindness, Daeho acted. He had one weapon left, a plasma charge designed for breaching armored doors. He armed it and jammed it into the weak point he had spotted at the commander's hip joint. The explosion tore through the power armor. The commander's shields failed. The massive figure stumbled, armor sparking and dying. Daeho forced himself to his feet. Every movement was agony. But he raised his weapon and fired 3 shots into the commander's exposed helmet. The figure crashed to the floor and didn't move. The remaining assassins saw their leader fall. Daeho's security team, inspired by his impossible victory, pressed the attack with renewed energy. Vel led a charge that scattered the enemy's formation. Within minutes, the assassins were retreating, fleeing through emergency exits. Station security finally arrived in force, drawn by the sounds of battle. They swept the hall, securing the area, treating the wounded. The Unity Gala had become a disaster zone. But it was over. Dae-ho collapsed against a wall, his body giving out. Medics rushed to him, but he waved them away. Council members first. Make sure they're all alive. Hana appeared, her formal dress torn and stained. We did it, Dae-ho corrected. Your people fought well, and paid for it. Hana's voice was heavy. We lost 8 security personnel. 14 diplomats are dead, dozens more wounded. The cost of victory. Dae-ho closed his eyes. Those deaths were on him. His plan. His choice to use people as bait. Nix tried to escape during the attack, Taemin said, approaching them. Blood stained his sleeve, but he seemed unharmed otherwise. We caught them at the transport bay. They had a ship waiting. Good. Dae-ho tried to stand and failed. His legs wouldn't support him. We need to interrogate them. Find out what else the Ascendancy is planning. And we need to interrogate them. Rest first, Hana ordered. You've done enough. As the medics finally got to work on him, Dae-ho's mind was already moving ahead. The battle was won. But the war wasn't over. The Ascendancy wouldn't stop. Just because one attack failed, they would adapt, plan, strike again. Bora floated down beside him, her light dim with exhaustion. Thank you for protecting us. For protecting me. That's what I do, Dae-ho said, his voice weak. You are hurt badly. I've had worse. She pulsed with what might have been amusement. You say that often. I do not think it is true. Maybe she was right. Maybe this was the worst. But he was alive, and the council was safe. For now, that was enough. They took him to the medical bay. His injuries were severe. Multiple broken ribs, internal bleeding, burns, and cuts everywhere. The doctors worked for hours, putting him back together with a combination of human medicine and alien technology. He drifted in and out of consciousness. In the moments of awareness, he thought about the 8 security personnel who had died. He didn't know their names. He should have known their names. They had trusted him, followed his plan, and paid with their lives. 3 days later, he woke to find himself in a private room. Hana sat beside his bed, reading reports on a data pad. You should be running the council, Dae-ho said, his voice rough. She looked up and smiled. The council can wait. You needed someone here when you woke up. How long? 3 days. Your injuries were extensive. The doctors said you should be dead. Disappointing them is becoming a habit. Hana set aside the data pad. We interrogated Nix. They confirmed everything. The Ascendancy has been planning this for years. The assassinations, the attacks, all of it was meant to destabilize the council. And now? Her expression turned grim. Now we face something worse. Intelligence from Nix's communication logs shows an Ascendancy fleet is en route to Nexus Prime. Hundreds of warships. They're not just trying to kill the council anymore. They're planning full-scale invasion. Dae-ho's blood went cold. How long until they arrive? 72 hours. The room fell silent. Outside the window, Nexus Prime continued its normal operations. Millions of beings living their lives, unaware that war was coming. Can we evacuate? Dae-ho asked. Not in time. And where would we go? The station is home to species from across the galaxy. This is where we made our stand for cooperation. If we abandon it now, the Ascendancy wins, even without firing a shot. Then we defend it. Hana shook her head sadly. Our combined fleets can't mobilize fast enough. We have maybe 20 warships available. Against hundreds. It's suicide. Dae-ho closed his eyes, thinking. There had to be a way. There was always a way, if you were willing to pay the price. And then he saw it. A desperate plan. An impossible plan. A plan that would cost everything. I need to see the council, he said. All of them. Now. The council chamber had been repaired. But scars from the attack remained. Burn marks on the walls. Patched flooring where energy weapons had struck. The beauty was gone. Replaced by grim functionality. It suited the mood. Dae-ho stood before the 12 council members. Medical staff had protested his leaving the hospital, but he had insisted. He was weak, bandaged, leaning on a support cane, but his mind was clear and his voice was strong. The Ascendancy fleet will arrive in 72 hours, he began. Intelligence estimates between 400 and 600 warships, carrying invasion forces. Their goal is to conquer Nexus Prime and use it as a base for galactic conquest. The council members sat in heavy silence. They had all seen the same reports. They knew what was coming. Our combined defense fleet cannot mobilize in time, Dae-ho continued. Evacuation is impossible. We cannot run, and we cannot fight. By any reasonable measure, we are already defeated. Vel slammed his crystalline fist on the table. Then we die with honor. The Crithian way is to face death standing. I am not interested in dying with honor, Dae-ho said flatly. I am interested in survival, and I have a plan. He activated the holographic display, showing a schematic of Nexus Prime. The station appeared as a massive ring structure, connected to a central hub by multiple spokes. At the heart of the hub was the main power core. Nexus Prime's power core generates enough energy to support 3 million inhabitants. Life support, artificial gravity, shields, manufacturing, everything. It is one of the most powerful reactors in known space. Bora's light pulsed with understanding. You want to use it as a weapon? Exactly. We can reconfigure the core to release a directional energy pulse, essentially turning the entire station into a massive energy cannon. The pulse would destroy the incoming fleet. Hope flickered across several faces. Then, Counselor Hana spoke, her voice heavy. What is the cost? What is the cost? Dae-ho had known this question would come. The reconfiguration will drain all power from the station. Life support will fail throughout the civilian sectors. We will have approximately 8 minutes to get everyone into emergency shelters before the air becomes unbreathable. Even with perfect coordination, thousands will die in the panic. That is unacceptable, said a council member from the Outer Rim. We cannot sacrifice our own people. The alternative is invasion, Dae-ho replied. The Ascendancy does not take prisoners. They enslave or eliminate. Everyone on this station will die or worse. This way, most survive. You said there is another cost. Hana pressed. What else? Dae-ho took a breath. The energy pulse must be controlled manually. Someone needs to stay at the core, adjusting the beam in real time to track the enemy fleet's movements. The radiation exposure at the core during the pulse will be fatal. Whoever operates it will not survive. The chamber fell silent. The weight of that sacrifice hung in the air like a physical thing. Taemin stood slowly. I will do it. No, Dae-ho said immediately. I am old. I have lived a full life. Let me give meaning to my final days. 5. No, Dae-ho repeated, more firmly. This requires someone with combat training, tactical experience, and the ability to think under extreme pressure. It requires someone who has made this kind of choice before. Understanding spread across the council members' faces. They knew what he meant. You were court-martialed for making this exact choice, Hana said quietly. Sacrificing a military objective to save civilians. Now you are asking us to approve sacrificing civilians to achieve a military objective. I know the irony, Dae-ho said bitterly. 5 years ago, I chose lives over orders and was punished. Today, I am asking you to let me choose death over surrender. The difference is that this time, I understand the full cost of command. Vel stood, his massive form towering. You saved us at the gala. You have earned the right to live. Let another make this sacrifice. This is not about rights. This is about capability. I know combat. I know tactics. I can make the adjustments needed to ensure the pulse destroys the fleet. Anyone else risks failure. Bora floated forward, her light pulsing with distress. There must be another way. We cannot lose you. You showed us what it means to care for each other across species. You gave us hope. Imin Lee. Imin. Deho smiled at her kindness. And now I am giving you survival. That is all I ever wanted. To protect those who cannot protect themselves. He turned back to address the full council. 5 years ago, I saved 2,000 refugees. My superiors said I was wrong, that I betrayed my duty. I have spent every day since wondering if they were right. Now I understand something. Leadership is not about choosing between right and wrong. It is about choosing between terrible options and living with the consequences. He paused, his voice becoming softer. Except I will not have to live with these consequences. You will. I am asking you to approve a plan that will kill thousands of your own people and cost my life. I am asking you to make the hardest decision you will ever face. And I am asking you to make it now, because we have no time left. The council members looked at each other. Some had tears in their eyes. Others sat with heads bowed. The burden of command had never felt heavier. Finally, Hana stood. All in favor of Deho's plan, knowing its full cost? One by one, hands and tentacles and appendages rose. All 12 voted yes. Even Bora, her light dim with sorrow, signaled her agreement. Then it is decided. Hana said, her voice breaking. May history forgive us. The next 72 hours were chaos. Engineers worked frantically to reconfigure the power core. Security forces organized the evacuation to emergency shelters. Medical teams prepared for mass casualties. Everyone knew what was coming, and everyone did their part. Deho spent those hours saying goodbye. He met with each council member privately. He told Hana that she represented the best of humanity and to never forget it. He told Vel that true honor was in protecting the weak, not dominating them. He told each of them, in different ways, that they mattered. His longest conversation was with Bora. They stood together, or rather, he stood, and she floated, in the observation dome, overlooking the stars. I do not want you to die, Bora said simply. I know, but someone has to, and I am the right choice. Why must there always be death? Why can we not find peace without sacrifice? Deho thought about the question. Maybe someday we will. But today is not that day. Today, we do what we must to protect tomorrow. Bora's light pulsed with colors he had never seen before. You changed me, Deho. You showed me that courage is not the absence of fear, but acting despite it. You showed me that different species can love each other, not romantically, but with true care and friendship. I will remember you always. Number 1. And I will remember you, Deho said, his voice thick with emotion. You reminded me why I became a soldier in the first place. To protect beings like you. Kind, good, innocent. He recorded a final message for Earth. In it, he spoke to the soldiers who had called him traitor, to the superiors who had court-martialed him, to the people who had forgotten him. I do not ask for forgiveness, he said to the camera. I do not ask to be remembered as a hero. I only ask that you understand this. Every life matters. Every being deserves protection. That is worth fighting for. That is worth dying for. If my death here helps you see that, then it is enough. On the final day, as the Ascendancy fleet approached, Deho made his way to the power core. The massive reactor hummed with barely contained energy. Engineers had installed the modifications. Everything was ready. The evacuation began. Alarms blared throughout the station. 3 million people moved toward emergency shelters in the deepest parts of the structure. It was orderly at first, then became panicked as reality set in. People pushed, shoved, fought for space. Children cried. The elderly fell and were trampled. Dae-ho monitored it all from the core, watching security feeds, his heart breaking with each casualty. This was his choice. These deaths were his responsibility. The council spoke to him over a secure channel, all 12 voices together. "Thank you, Dae-ho." "Protect each other," Dae-ho replied. "That is all that matters." The Ascendancy fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel. Hundreds of warships, exactly as intelligence had predicted. They moved in formation. Confident in their overwhelming numbers, they broadcast surrender demands, expecting compliance. Nexus Prime's response was silence. Dae-ho watched the fleet approach on tactical displays. His hands rested on the controls. The power core had reached critical charge. Radiation alarms screamed warnings he could no longer hear. His body was already breaking down, cells dying, systems failing. But his hands were steady. He thought about the refugees from 5 years ago. He wondered if they remembered him, if they ever knew his name. It did not matter. They had lived. That was enough. The power core reached maximum charge. Through the communicator, he heard Hana's voice, steady despite her tears. "Everyone is in shelters. The station is as ready as it will ever be." "Then let us end this," Dae-ho said. He activated the pulse. Pure energy erupted from Nexus Prime's core. A beam of destruction so bright it could be seen across star systems. It cut through space like judgment itself, sweeping across the Ascendancy fleet's formation. Warships simply ceased to exist. Shields meant nothing. Armor meant nothing. The energy was fundamental, unstoppable. Hundreds of vessels vaporized in seconds. The Ascendancy's flagship tried to evade. Dae-ho tracked it with dying fingers, adjusting the beam with instinct born from years of combat. The flagship's shields collapsed. The ship broke apart into debris. In 30 seconds, an armada became dust. Nexus Prime went dark. Emergency power activated for critical systems only. The station became a tomb of shadows, lit only by emergency strips and the distant stars. In the power core, Dae-ho collapsed. His body was destroyed by radiation, but consciousness remained long enough to see the tactical display. 0 enemy contacts. Victory. He tried to speak, to tell them it worked. But his voice was gone. His vision narrowed to a point. The pain faded. His last thought was of Bora's golden light, and how beautiful it had been. 6 months passed. Nexus Prime was rebuilt, more beautiful than before. The station thrived, a testament to cooperation and sacrifice. The Void Ascendancy collapsed after their fleet's destruction. Their followers abandoned an ideology proven hollow. In the council chamber, a 13th seat had been added. Empty, draped in honor cloths from all 12 species. Each session began with silence for the fallen guardian. Bora had established an order of peacekeepers called the Guardians. They served across the galaxy, protecting the weak, choosing sacrifice over glory. Their symbol was a simple human hand, reaching toward a star. Earth had pardoned Dae-ho. His court-martial was taught in military academies as an example of conscience. His name became legend. Children learned his story, human and alien both. But those who knew him remembered something quieter. His dry humor, his unexpected kindness, his fundamental decency. Hana kept his dog tags in her office. Vel wore a crystal medallion in his honor. Taemin wrote his biography. Each remembered him differently, but all remembered him with love. In the observation dome, a plaque marked the spot where he used to stand. Here stood Dae-ho, human outcast, who taught the galaxy that redemption is found not in forgetting our failures, but in dying to ensure others don't repeat them. He was the last hope when hope seemed lost. He was the best of us. Below, in smaller script, his own words. I was not a hero. I was just a man who finally found something worth dying for. Protect each other. That is all that matters. The stars shone through the dome, eternal and indifferent, bearing witness to the brief, brilliant light of one human who proved that sometimes the outcast becomes the cornerstone and the forgotten become immortal. Bora visited the observation dome every night. She floated in the spot where Daeho used to stand, her golden light reflecting off the plaque. She told him about the day, about the council's decisions, about the peace they were building. You would be proud, she said to the stars. We remember. We protect each other. Just as you taught us. The universe offered no response. But somewhere, in the endless dark, a spark of human courage had changed everything. And that was enough.